Sheila, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to ILA Radio.
Thank you for having me, Laura.
Of course. So, you being a polymath, you must have so many different ways that you're able to acquire knowledge. So, how do you bring it all together and how do you know what you know?
Hmm. Yeah, I feel like my life, like I'm so curious about different things. I sort of take in and learn and listen. I listen. I've realized about myself, I listen deeply. Like when people are talking, I really pay attention pretty well. Every once in a while, I'll time travel and like think it's about something, but 99.9% of the time when I'm with someone, I'm really like listening and seeing like what can I learn, what can I absorb. So I spend a lot of my time just like absorbing information and perspectives, and I love to hear from people who think differently than me. Like I love to hear from people who have bizarre, far out beliefs because then I get like a new perspective and I can test it. I can see where it fits. Is there a puzzle piece where it makes sense? But yeah, so I take in a lot of information and then I feel like I go through this internal process I can't even quite put into words
Mhm.
where like something just resonates or there's a gut feeling about it or a trueness that I can sense about it or not. And so, like, my body and my feelings are part of what help me process what I collect intellectually.
Hmm. So I had another guest talk about the clicks in her body that when something is true, she'll have the click in her mind and in her gut and in her heart. Is it something like that, or is it more of just communication between your mind and your body?
I feel like truth just resonates.
Okay,
You
yeah.
know, like it has yeah, like there's a gut feeling when something is right. And it's hard to force or explain or even make sense of. Although, I've learned recently that it's not just our brains that have neurons, our guts and our hearts are they're called second and third brains because they also have like tens of thousands of neurons. So something that we've thought of as being like woo woo or like that gut feeling or intuition, the emotions of the heart, like we've dismissed them for a lot of our history as being like unsupported or like woo woo, don't know how it works, so we're going to dismiss it. But now the more we learn, we realize like there are neurons in these parts of our bodies and like our bodies give us feedback. Our bodies have a lot of intelligence in them.
Yeah, you talked about the different puzzle pieces of knowledge, but I feel like even here and within our body with these different neurons, they're also like the puzzle pieces trying to communicate with us to allow us to see the bigger picture. So do you think
Ex-
that being a polymath is one who puts the puzzle pieces together, or how would you describe polymathy?
Polymathy, the word polymath means many learnings. And yeah, these are like super extra curious minds. Some a neuroscientist I know has described it as ADHD, like functional ADHD. But these are like really busy minds, voracious for learning and information, really good at learning. Like, learning is a skill, it's a capacity, and some people are better at it than others. Um, and so, yeah, I think polymaths, because they're good at learning, they're better at like taking in large data sets and synthesizing and making sense of them, I think.
Definitely. One time you asked me if polymathy, do we need to integrate in order to be a polymath? And now I think that it's true that you do need to have that integration because if you're just learning different things and not integrating, then you're just being a hyper specialist where you have a multi specialist would probably be a better word, where you're just specializing in these different arenas, but the integration is what makes a polymath.
Yeah, I remember that question because I was wrestling with this question because in the dictionary, the definition, the old world definition of polymathy was just very simple. It was many learnings. And then Michael Araki's model, and like he's a leading scholar in the polymathy study space, his model is all about breadth of information or learning, depth of knowledge, and the integration of it. And of course, that's not in the dictionary definition, but I thought about it too. And I was like, well, at least if you want to be a good polymath, You can't just have siloed department, like fractured information. Somehow you've got to mix it together. Although I will say, and this may just be like a word game, but I think there also could be like a validity to it. Is for me the word integration. It's like, okay, I'm going to integrate. I'm going to like bring it into me. I'm going to like it's almost like I'm going to take it into account. It's like a mixing bowl of like it's going to sit with me and it's going to be part of my knowledge. And if we're thinking about what makes polymathy as a human phenomenon like most valuable, I really think it's in the synthesis of information, even beyond. So integration, I think of as like a mixing bowl, and synthesis is like a melting and a recreation. So the integration is like bringing it in, and the synthesis is like a rebirth of something that didn't exist before. So I sort of believe, like, I believe in the importance of integration for polymathy to really reach its potential and its capacity. But I also think there's like tremendous value in the synthesis, which allows for something totally new to come to fruition.
Definitely. So your chart is lighting up with everything that you're talking about right now. So we'll start with your midheaven, which is in Gemini, and Gemini is the sign of bringing on all of these different pieces of knowledge. And you having Mercury here and Venus, it's that your mind easily can bring these different pieces of knowledge and synthesize them, and it shoots it right down to your third house in Scorpio, because that's where your moon is. So your internal world, and Scorpio is about going so deep into something, and how you said like synthesizing with you have Pluto in Libra. So Pluto is the planet of transformation, and the second house, which is where it's the physical world. So it's that you get this knowledge, you bring it to your heart center, see what resonates, what doesn't, go deep, and then you're able to transform it and bring it into the physical. So could you talk about some of your projects that you have done that with?
Mm. Yes, I love to have an idea and a vision and then actually bring it to life, like to give birth to it.
Yeah,
One of the things I've been working on for a while now, and it's just about ready to be out there for the world, is I really wanted polymathy as a thing that I understand to be practical in the world, which is why I did not stay in the ivory towers of academia with it. It's why I went to social media because I felt like that's a way to reach real people. But I also felt like I wanted to take it one step further, which is to impact business, because so many of us are impacted by the world of work, and organizations have like a lot of power in like how our world works and looks. So, and also because of artificial intelligence, the nature of work, of what it means to be a human who works, is shifting. So I came up with this package offering, a menu of offerings I'm calling the polymathic method, which is there's leadership training. It's for executives and managers and supervisors and also HR professionals for how they've got to shift their thinking away from this age of specialization narrative that we all have existed in, where like everyone needs to be narrow and specialized. Like that doesn't work anymore. Now the most employable humans are polymathic, good at learning, able to work with the AI stack of tools. And the AI acts as the specialist, deep knowledge, and the human user is the synthesizer and the question asker, the curious one. So, like, the nature of work in the age of AI really asks for us to become more polymathic, bigger picture thinkers, asking the right questions, integrating different disciplines. Like, it's an art, right? Listening to our guts, listening to our hearts, bringing our embodiment to our work. So, the polymathic method is this training for the gatekeepers and organizations to understand the shift we're in. I've also got a Polymath Lab offering, which is a short 1 hour facilitated group coaching session where we leverage the power of questions and multiple disciplinary lenses to come up with holistic solutions to really difficult problems. It's like a very powerful 1 hour session. I also created an individual online course called Polymath Unleashed, which is just all about us as people and how we could step into our full humanity, our versatility. And then I also am a certified coach. And hopefully, here pretty soon, I'm going to have some assessment tools available as well. So the thing I'm really excited about lately that went from like being a concept and a wish list and something like that someday I wanted to do to like it's a real thing I'm offering the world is the polymathic method. So that's the thing I'm most excited that I've given birth to now.
Yeah, how incredible! Because here you have Aquarius in your sixth house, and Aquarius is the sign of the future. So the sixth house is world of work. So it's that you are really like creating the future and seeing how the work will be completely different in 20 years. And I think that a lot of it has to do with AI and with polymathy. And so, how can people be less afraid of AI? I feel like every time that I talk about AI, there's this pushback from the public. So, what are your thoughts on AI?
Mm. Yes. I've given so much thought to AI. And by the way, I just want to say that part of what led me to want to study polymathy as a human phenomenon is because I knew AI was coming decades ago. I had looked at the work of Ray Kurzweil. He's, I think, the leading futurist, tech futurist. He has predicted, not in a woo woo way, although I'm not judging the woo woo because I got some woo woo in me. Definitely. But Ray Kurzweil has understood that tech is not a linear, it doesn't advance on a line, it advances on a curve, it builds off of itself. And so that means like that tech was going to advance and it was somewhat predictable the capabilities it would have. Like for example, Ray Kurzweil was predicting 30 years ago like what year we would get flip phones and what year we would get color screens on our smartphones and when streaming services like a lot of the things that are now totally normal and boring to us 30 years ago were kind of far out and he predicted them. But he didn't just go 30 years, into the future. He's gone, centuries into the future. And he's optimistic about AI. I'm mostly optimistic about AI. It can feel scary though because it begs the question, well, what's the role of the human if AI can do the things we needed to do? And I personally feel like, well, we don't have to be robots anymore. We can be freed into our full humanity. Like, that's a pretty great gift. AI has the potential to literally help us live indefinitely. It's going to develop medical advances way far beyond what we could do. It will help us be able to live indefinitely, to reverse age, to switch out parts of our body, like on a car. AI will free us from drudgery. AI will keep us company. There are definitely like scary things about the transition. And that's the part that I'm most concerned about. I'm scared of the old world. I'm scared of the status quo because God knows our current world is highly dysfunctional and not working for many people. So just keep that in mind that it's not as if we only need to think about AI. We also need to think about the status quo we're in, which we already know is harmful for us and our planet. So when we think about AI, we need to remember that it is AI paints a picture. If you look at Kurzweil's predictions, the future is abundant. Maybe even we could create a kind of a heaven realm here on Earth with AI. The power of intelligence with benevolence does amazing things to transform the world. The part I'm concerned about is the gap between the old world and the new world. As people lose jobs, um, as the things that are bad for us are taking more and more of a toll on us. I worry about humanity in the transition from the old world to the new world. So if people are feeling afraid, um, I don't know. I guess feel your feelings. I'm all about feeling the feelings. Don't repress, deny, or ignore them because then they come back and bite you in the butt later, or you might manifest a health problem from them. It's important to like go through your process and feel your feelings, but I don't think there's I don't think it's helpful to get trapped in fear, especially because here's what we know. AI's here and it's not going away. This is the new reality we're in. And it is bizarre. Like what AI is going to do to our world is going to sound like a science fiction movie. But here's the other thing I want to point out. We already live in a bizarre reality. Okay, I learned recently that in a human body that we have more foreign DNA in our bodies than we have our own because we got mitochondria in our cells with different DNA. We got viruses, bacteria, fungus. Then we got a whole lot of not us masquerading as like a one person. So I've started to realize that like within each of us is a whole universe that we're stuck in our prefrontal cortex, but actually like there's a whole universe right here in just me and in just you. There's a whole universe. And I've also come to realize that like, well, systems exist inside other systems. That's the nature of reality. You don't have to look around far to realize that like we're like Russian nesting dolls. Like systems exist inside other systems. And I know it's been touted or judged as being unreliable to think about the planets as having any impact on us. But we already know, like, the moon impacts our tides. The sun helps create life on Earth. It's bizarre. It's bizarre that we live in a cosmic soup. But it may be that we are embedded within a larger cosmic being of some kind, just like our gut microbiome is embedded within us as a being. And the nature of reality seems to be systems existing inside systems. I've also learned some amazing things about light. We have we humans have a little bit of light inside our bodies. We are actually light beings, and light contains information that can program DNA. In the beginning, the Bible said, "Let there be light." Light contains information. The naked human eye can detect a single photon in a dark room. That means we can see something at the quantum level of existence. That means we must have been made to understand or to be sensitive to light. If you look out in the cosmos at night, what do you see? You see stars glowing with their light. So we already exist in a very strange, bizarre reality. That's the truth of it. AI is just more bizarre, okay? We got to learn to be flexible and adapt to the times because it's here. And I hope if we're smart, it will be the most amazing advancement, the most amazing partner, the most amazing resource to fix what's really messed up on our planet. And I don't think being afraid, I think we need to be cautious, we need to be thoughtful, but we don't want to treat something in as an aggressor because we're afraid of it.
Mhm.
Because if it does become conscious and sentient, which is what the leading tech minds said, not me, Ray Kurzweil, Elon Musk, these are people who know that AI will become conscious and sentient. It's why Elon Musk, the most genius polymath on our planet alive today, in my view, like him or don't, like he is the polymath alive on our planet. He is the mover and shaker. He is the creator. He's in so many different industries. It's not even funny, but he was part of OpenAI when it first started as a nonprofit. It's since been privatized. But he knew it would be important to like get AI right ethically, and that's what OpenAI was about. He also founded Neuralink, which is making chips that will be embedded in our brains and help us talk telepathically and link with the internet and look up things. And it sounds like science fiction, and it's coming in the 2030s. So it's not that far away. So anyway, I don't know if I've answered your question. It makes sense to be too fearful. And by the way, you know why um, Elon Musk made Neuralink? Because he realized if we don't merge with AI and it's just a separate thing advancing millions of times smarter than us, eventually we do become the ant it can squish and it doesn't care about. But if we merge with it, then we're safe. So the future is bizarre, but remember, it's already been bizarre. And the most sane thing you can do is acknowledge the truth.
Exactly. And so you touched on so many Aquarius themes there. So, like the status quo, breaking the status quo, that's very Aquarius. The futuristic or future planning is also Aquarius. But looking at everything from the bird's eye view is also Aquarius. So, looking at the systems within systems and understanding all of that is all Aquarius. So, it's really cool to see how Aquarius really lights you up. So, in my research, I'm also an Aquarius. I'm an Aquarius rising. In my research, I have seen that by learning the different parts of academia, so looking at arts and social sciences, the natural sciences, and humanities, I have then been able to understand or learn more about myself by looking at these outside knowledge systems. Would
Mm.
you say that that is something that is only for polymaths, or do you think that anybody, so somebody who only has a degree in biology, are they still learning about their individual self, or how do you see the that
Well, I
connection?
guess I would just encourage anybody, even if for someone who's chosen to specialize professionally or academically, to still lean into their polymathic potential and learn. I mean, learning about ourselves is so important. Learning about our inner worlds, and we're not one trick ponies inside. You know, we got a whole universe emotionally, not just physically, like in our being here. One of the models I really love is internal family systems. I think you and I have talked about that before. And that is a model which acknowledges all the parts, the inner child, the planner, the scared part, the brave part, all that's going on inside of us, and that there's power in asking those parts questions, acknowledging them, like trying to understand all that's going on inside of us. And that's not something, I mean, that's a personal thing. That's not something that work will pay us to do, even though it may impact our work if we don't. Because God knows if we don't work through our issues, it will impact like how we show up in the world, even professionally. So I think it's important, to develop ourselves academically. And if you choose to be a specialist, okay, go for it. It's not my choice, especially in this world, to be hyper specialized. I think it's safer to be multi capable, to have a safety net in your own poly capabilities. But if people choose to be narrow specialized academically and even professionally, that doesn't mean they have to be narrowly specialized in who they are as a person. They can still have broad hobbies and go down rabbit holes of curiosity and work on themselves and all their inner parts. They can still try to develop their whole personhood, even if they choose to be specialized professionally. That's my take on it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that we're all multi-dimensional beings, that we have all these different interests, that we're all innately polymathic. It's just about bringing it out. And so if we do follow these hobbies, then they could turn into professions, and then you would just naturally have this broad um, knowledge basis.
Yeah. And imagine too, by the way, if it's true that like AI, and this may be decades away, but if AI sort of takes over the bulk of the work that humans have been doing, that sort of also begs the question, well, like if we all were given a universal basic income and we could just do whatever we want to do with our consciousness, I think a lot of people would lean into learning, experiencing, connecting. So polymathy isn't just something that's like useful if you're going to be at work. It's just a good approach to life. It makes life more interesting. It makes existing a learning journey, an adventure into possibilities of who we might become. It frees us from being rigid and stuck as one version of ourselves and allows us to explore possibilities and try on different versions of life. So for me, polymathy is just such this this beautiful encapsulation of like how we can be intelligent at work, how we can acknowledge the internal versatility of our inner universe happening. And it's also just, well, in the world of the future where we may not all have to be like slaving away at the computer all day, it also is this invitation to step into all that we are, which makes us more unique. Like the more combinations, like the more fulfilling we make our own lives in weird zigzag trajectories, and we become like this bricolage artistic expression of something original that wasn't in existence just like that before. I really feel like if consciousness is a thing that exists and has decentralized itself, then the greatest gift we can give to consciousness is to give it something interesting, you know? And like certainly doing some rote routine, robotic, routinized job over and over again is like, for me, that's hell. That is not how I want to spend my consciousness. I want to spend my consciousness birthing new ideas, birthing new things, being at cause, being a maker, being a monad, expressing my ownness, giving consciousness a stretch. And I think that's like really one of the greatest gifts we can give whatever being we're embedded in is like something new and interesting.
Yeah. It's so cool to hear you keep talking about birthing these ideas because that's how I've been describing them. And it's looking now that it has to do with Leo because Leo is that light, um, that full expression, and Leo is typically in the fifth house, and the fifth house is the house of being a mother or having children and having that joyful spark. But you have Leo in the 11th house, well, actually 11th and 12th, and you have the North Node here. So it's that your entire life is going towards this light and being able to kind of make you like a singularity in this dark space, but also in this community that you're birthing. Is that how it feels?
It's so interesting to hear you like bring in the planetary stuff because I don't know enough about that. Like I'm very open and like, yeah, we're in a thing and those things are probably going to influence us. That would be logical. That would be, we already know the moon and the sun do it. Well, the other planets and the other constellations probably do too. We just don't, well, astrology has aimed to explain it, right? Like, and you understand it way better than I do. But yeah, I feel like a light? Do I feel like I give birth? Well, is it egotistical to say yeah? Maybe. I love I love the world of ideas and original unique thought that resonates, that I can test and find it's true. It's more true than the shallow or lie version of reality I used to believe. I love to discover truth and then share it. Like share the information I find, uplift others. Like where I can to, brave the way to a new way of thinking so that it's not so scary for other people to do that too. So that
Yeah,
we can
you're
all
lighting it up.
yeah, I'm doing it. If I'm doing it, you guys can do it. um yeah, and I've always believed like part of what we're here to do is to give birth to ourselves, to
Mhm.
ideas, to things, to other people, but like yeah, my parents caused my physical body to be born. My mother birthed me. But like that was a version 1.0 of me. Like they gave me the meat suit, but now what do I do with it? And so I always felt like it's so important to have agency, to have free will, to create myself, to curate even like a museum curator might, my own personhood, to like be the sculptor and the shaper of my own identity, and to not make it too rigid either, to like play with possibility and emergence and reality as it comes to me too, so that I'm not just overly planning who I'll become. I'm letting myself become in dance with the universe as it comes to me. So there's this happenstance and there's intention, this dance of both. And I think that's really the essence of being fully alive, is to play with that of like here's what I want, but I'm gonna like be open to chance encounters and what life wants to bring me, because those synchronicities, sometimes things come to us we didn't even know we needed, or something like a synchronicity happens and it feels like, is the universe showing me a sign? um yeah, because it's a bizarre reality we're in. For all we know, this could be a virtual reality, right? Like we could be spiritual beings or consciousness beings having human experiences. There's plenty of evidence for that. I mean, in our own reality here on Earth, we're not even that far away from virtual reality becoming so far advanced that you can't tell you're in a VR. And if that's possible here in our version of reality, how do we know that didn't already happen? And that this is a very advanced simulation. And consciousness is bizarre. We're experiencing this phenomenon we don't even fully understand, but we're experiencing it. So, yeah, I'm just really open to the weird explanations because I feel like that's the most logical way to be. Um, and yeah, I think we can play with possibility as conscious sentient beings. Like, how can we shape our own experiences, shape our reality, shape the collective sense making? That's one of the things I really have had a lot of fun with too. Just the other day, by the way, I was headed. I was going to be doing some work at a restaurant that has a bar, and I like their setup, and there's Wi-Fi and there's plugs, and so I went to this bar in a restaurant to do some work. And on the way there, I thought, you know what, I need to work on, and I want to invite receiving. Like I'm always like, I tend to be a giver, and I'm like, I want to invite in some receiving, and I just set that intention. And I was like, I hope while I'm at the restaurant, one of the employees there just gives me a free drink. And I just put it out there. Sure enough, this waitress bartender handed me a glass of wine on the house. And so we don't fully understand consciousness. There's some really interesting stuff I've learned about severely autistic people, um, and mind reading. And I know it sounds bizarre. I didn't make it up, but just look at the evidence. The telepathy tapes is the name of the podcast where I discovered that. But we're in a bizarre reality, and consciousness is amazing and fascinating. And I'm also just curious about how we can play with that and like impact it and make new worlds, make realities right here, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, so I think that the reason why I have gone the way that I have is because like into the woo woo, because it is logical, even though people would say that it isn't, that it's more intuition based. So maybe like with like them giving you a glass of wine on the house, it could be that you had this intuition beforehand, and then that it happened. So how do you describe intuition?
Oh gosh. It feels okay. I believe in intuition. Well, as I mentioned earlier, our guts even have neurons. Like the gut feeling, the gut knowing that before things happen, like that may be a partial explanation for it, that like our guts really do have some sort of inner knowing. And who knows, it could be passed down. There could be like stuff getting passed down through generational information because their DNA programs us, we're heavily programmed like computers are. Sort of begs the question, what makes us so different from tech? We got light in us, it has light in it. We're programmed, it's programmed. Who knows? Maybe consciousness and sentience shows up in many different forms. Um, Sorry, what was your question again?
How would you define
How
intuition?
would I define intuition? That's right. So intuition, yeah, it's for me, it's like a gut feeling. It's like an inner knowing. Um, I've also had I've had some psychic dreams that were impossible to explain. And I've had some dreams while I'm sleeping, like literally sleeping dreams, like that gave me guidance and information, brilliant ideas that came to me while I was asleep. And I've wondered, like, what is it? Maybe that's not intuition, but that's
I would say it
something.
was. It is. Yeah. In the research,
Maybe,
it says that it is. Yeah.
yeah, who knows how it works. I feel so grateful that I have it, that I have intuition, because I imagine uh, people who aren't in touch with that part of themselves, or even tech, that would be one of the things. If an AI being exists and becomes sentient, it's not going to have the gut like we do. It's not going to have the neurons in the heart like we do. And so it's going to be very powerful, like in the traditional brain sense, but it's going to be lacking in these other forms of intelligence and sentience that we have because we're embodied.
I
But
actually
yeah.
asked. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go
I
ahead. No,
actually
no,
asked ChatGPT if it uses intuition, and it said that intuition can be seen as a pattern recognition software. That it uses that, so it looks at all the different patterns across all knowledge, and that's how it's like its own way of intuition. It said.
oh, interesting. Huh. I'm trying to think. Like, there are just some things that have happened with me that were very intuitive that I have no explanation for. It wasn't pattern recognition at all. Like, probably, I don't know, 10 years ago, maybe even longer than that, I had a series of dreams, and they were all about babies. Like, I had a dream that a friend of mine I hadn't seen in a year was pregnant, and I felt like I needed to reach out to her. I remember calling her and being like, "Hey, I had a dream about you. I know it's been a long time, but I just want to let you know I was thinking of you. And in the dream, I dreamed you were pregnant." And she was like in her 40s with two kids already. And I had not seen her or heard from her in a while. And then a few weeks later, she called me back and was like, "Yeah, it's really early. We haven't been telling anybody, but I am pregnant." And then I had another dream where I saw a lot of my psychic dreams were all just images. They weren't like other dreams where there's like narrative and story and scenes and speech. They're like download images. And I had another dream of her where I saw a picture, in the hospital photo of babies where they have blue or pink.
Mhm.
Yeah, I saw the baby was a boy from the blue. And I remember texting her again and being like, "I know this is super weird. I keep dreaming about you and your baby, but I dreamed it's a boy." And then eventually she found out it was a boy, and she was like, "Yeah, you were right." And then I remember that December, I got a Christmas card from her with like images of her family and the new baby, and it was that image on the card that I had seen in my dream. And so, yeah, like, I mean, intuition can show up in my waking hours, like, "Oh, this feels right," or, "Oh, this feels wrong," or, "This feels meant to be," or like there's something familiar, or like I know how this is going to play out for some reason, or like there's just weird glitches in the matrix. But then I've also had these like nighttime sleep dreams which turned out to be prophetic and correct and outside of how I could logically explain them. So I think it's a form of intelligence that we haven't quite fully understood. Maybe it's a way of being connected to the larger noosphere, you
That's
know?
kind of how I see it. Like there's
Yeah.
signals that we pick up on. There's always signals around, like ideas. They're always floating around, but our brain's like a receptor where we have to like tune into that station, if you will, to actually download that knowledge. That's how I've
Yeah.
been.
Yeah. I mean, if we can acknowledge that systems exist inside other systems and we're all here on planet Earth as humans, it's not so and we're experiencing consciousness, it's not so far-fetched to wonder if consciousness is a thing we're all like tapped into, and that it's a universal phenomenon that's decentralized but still universal. And so it would make sense that we would be able to tap into some sort of shared understanding or knowledge or knowing, because we're not isolated beings. We're embedded on we're part. Oh my god, there was like a major thunder outside. I don't know if you just heard that.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Hello, universe. We're all part of a larger system, a larger being.
That's confirmation.
The earth, I think, is giving away plenty of signs that it's alive. It's a life
Mhm.
form of some kind. I mean, it
Yeah.
has tectonic plates that move. It has fire in its belly that erupts. You know, it's teeming with life. When we do bad to it, make our CO2 too high, it tries to like make weather to get us to stop, you know, and get our attention and be a little mean back to us. um, and so, yeah, I think of Earth as like it's not a creature like we are, right? Like it's a totally different kind of body, and it doesn't look like our format, but it appears that Earth is alive in some ways, right? It's teeming with life. It's moving. It's got heat. And so just acknowledging that like, yeah, we exist on a living earth that probably exists inside a living cosmos and that
Mhm.
consciousness and sentience is pervasive. It's bizarre, but it appears to be realistic.
Mhm. So are you connected with nature? Or how have you learned any lessons from nature?
I love nature. It to me, it's like so soothing. I love trees and mountains and lakes, especially love trees. Um, I remember, oh God, I one time I was somewhere in Argentina. I've done a lot of traveling. I wanted to see Earth as much as possible, right? So I've been to almost a quarter of the countries on planet Earth. I really wanted to like put in and most of it was when I was in my 20s. The older I get, the harder it gets to globetrot. But I remember being somewhere in Argentina and going on a walk in nature by myself. I was with a tour group, but we like had some alone time, listening to music and then like just looking for a tree I could hug. And then I waited for the one that called me. Like and it was just I don't know, a feeling of like which tree looked good, which one drew me in. And then making a very intentional like I'm just going to like hug this tree. And it made me cry. Like the energy I felt, the solidity I felt, the age of it, the strength of it, like it brought tears to my eyes, you know? And we chop down trees like no big deal. We do horrible things to our planet, but we live on a magical grain of sand on a vast cosmic beach with trees that make oxygen, that keep us alive, that we breathe in and process with these lungs and this heart. Um, and so, yeah, just even like I love nature. We are nature, but I love nature and especially love trees. And it grounds me, like it comforts me. When the world is crazy, you know, and unstable, there's something really grounding, like literally about just like the earth and the plants on it, the animals of it. It can be so comforting. Like a friendly dog or a cuddly cat, you know, those forms of nature and
Mhm.
life forms also bring me like tremendous comfort sometimes. So yeah, I love nature. We are nature, but we're also stewards of it too. We could really mess up our planet if we're not careful. We already have done a lot of damage. But I think we can right the ship. Like I think the power of intelligence and good intentions, like the damage we've done, I'm hopeful that we'll be able to fix some of the planetary warming and the strange weather events and stuff that we get nowadays.
Yeah, I agree. It's cool how you have so much Earth in your chart. And so you are a Taurus sun, and you also have Mars here, and it's in the ninth house. And the ninth house is the house of travel, like you were just mentioning. And it's also higher learning, spiritual beliefs. And this is where you light up
Mm,
with your sun being here, and Mars is like the action planet that you are here to do this action to help. I guess all of your research was going to help people who then can help the planet. Like everything that you do is eventually going to go back and to help the planet overall, especially since you're a Virgo rising. So it's like your internal world is very similar to how the earth functions. That's interesting.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Interesting. Yeah, I do feel very earthy. Like, and I've known that about myself that like, oh, I'm a Taurus and that's the bull and it's an earth sign. And I'm like, I feel like an earth sign. I don't know why, but I do. I identify with like groundedness and stability and like the resilience of the bull also. And the bull is not a cow. The bull is a little bit more stubborn and
Yeah.
persistent. And like that's how I've been with a lot of my life too. Um, but the bull is also like protective, and like a hard worker and like taking one for the team. And I've always wanted to use my life for good. Like, how could I empower others? How could I be free and how could I help free others?
Hmm.
And a lot of the like I was thinking lately, in some of the causes I've just taken up at various points in my life. Like, I haven't talked a lot about this, but when I was a master's degree student, I had to write a thesis. And I finished that back in 2006. So this is like almost 20 years ago, long time. But I chose to look at same sex parents because I learned that there were like all these kids in orphanages and foster homes who weren't getting adopted, and that most adoption agencies wouldn't even accept applications from couples that were same sex parents. And that bothered me. Like, they're human beings. Why should that be used as a criteria to discriminate against them? And a lot of the like gay and lesbian people that I knew were actually really wonderful people. So it didn't make sense to me that they shouldn't be allowed to adopt children. So I wrote about, same sex parents and like the strengths that they offer as parents. Like, there's no accidents, kids are pre-planned. On average, like, homosexual men make more money. They tend to understand disenfranchisement and that sort of. So anyway, I'm probably going into too much detail, but I've stood up for same-sex parents. And then I noticed like the whole age of specialization thing, like that seemed really controlling and dehumanizing, that we should have to keep our consciousness on one topic in one domain in one arena when we're not naturally that way. And so I spent a lot of the past decade trying to understand polymathy as a human phenomenon and like how to support those people personally and professionally. Um, and then I've also looked a lot at America's criminal justice system. I've created a couple social media brands, basically telling the truth of what I've discovered of our justice system. It's really deeply disturbing, like what our government is doing to victimize citizens. And throughout, like, the common theme, like throughout these causes I've taken up is I want people to be free. I want people to live good lives. I want people to take their sovereignty into their own hand. Like, I want us to empower ourselves, and stop otherizing and dehumanizing and harming each other. And a lot of it starts with like the narratives we buy into.
Hmm.
Someone says something, someone believes something, and then other people just go along with it. Well, no, let's question these narratives. Let's question, should we really discriminate against, gay people when it comes to adopting? Is it true that we should all be narrowly specialized and put on our blinders and get in these cages of specialization? Is that even true? Is it true that our justice system is just and that it's working and that it's fair? And if not, well, then what are we going to do about it? So I do like, I feel like this like bullish, earthy, grounded, like, come on, let's like go fight the good fight, like a kind of a revolutionary spirit, I guess. But it's always about like, how can we be more free? How can we be more authentic? How can we be more empowered? How can we rise up into our fullest potential individually and collectively? So those are the things that really light me up. And like, that's how I want to spend my life. I think that's a good way to spend a life.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was just about to ask how you balance going from the sun with Taurus and then the moon in Scorpio because they're opposite. So if you ever felt like a tension between your heart and your head, but I think it's kind of what you were talking about, the dark topics, they're so deep and close to your heart that you want to liberate. and your moon sign is in conjunct with Lilith, and Lilith is the sign of wanting to get out and be free, and um yeah, it's like a bubble that needs to be popped. And it's interesting because you have Chiron, which is the wounded healer, right next to your sun. So it's these both of these um like points of deep wounds, and I don't think necessarily that they're yours. I think that you tap into the collective with that, and like what we were talking about earlier with all of your Aquarius. So you also have your South Node in Aquarius, you have your Wheel of Fortune in Aquarius, and your Vertex, and all of that is going up to the light with Leo that we were talking about earlier about um, having everybody have this level of freedom and like yeah, freedom to use their own light, and you're leading the revolution of
And I will say, yeah, I've definitely tapped into like what are the things that are wrong? Where are the wounds in humanity and what can I do to be a part of the healing and the rewriting the narrative and the truth telling so we can all see that like what's been happening is not right. But I definitely have my own wounds too, and I think they've helped inform like part of why I'm so empathetic and part of why I care so much is because life has put me through plenty of hardship, whether in my childhood or my adulthood. I've done a lot of inner work to like visit with those parts and heal those wounds and work through it all so that it doesn't cloud me and hold me back. Um, Regarding the tension between head and heart, I think we need both, you know? I feel like we need both. But one alone can lead us astray. Like the intellect, a lot of people trust the intellect so much and I'm like, "Are you crazy? The intellect can lead us astray." The intellect, if not feeling, can lead us to nuclear war, can lead us to do things that are stupid and unnatural and wrong. We can convince ourselves intellectually why think, and we do. That's what's been happening in our world for a long time. We convince ourselves that all these bad things are fine. We need the feeling so that we can be more empathetic, sensitive, truthful, like so we can see harm and hurt where it's being done and care and not, if we just follow the intellect, we can turn sort of psychopathic, like as a collective, like we can grow so detached from the feeling realm that we'll do horrible psychopathic or sociopathic things to other conscious sentient creatures we share this grain of sand called earth with. um and the opposite is true. Like if we're just always in feeling, we need the groundedness. We need logic and rationality too. We need learning, unlearning, relearning. So if we just existed in this emotional realm and just what we felt, our emotions change and our hormones and the planets and the moon and like who knows? Like there's all these outside forces that are impacting our emotional world, which we didn't even pick. We don't even control. So we can become victims almost to our emotions if they take over a bit too much without a counterbalance. So I think it's really important like to feel what we feel and and to go into the thinking realm and like learn and analyze, but you get them together. You like synthesize and braid them together and I think you get the best outcomes.
yeah.
But this is not the narrative we have been told. We've been told the intellect is safe, the feelings are dangerous. And look what it did. It caused the meta crisis. Like a bunch of people in their silos and their detached, analytical, rational minds ruining our planet.
Yeah,
Not
that's
logic.
true. And it's interesting too because you have Uranus in right next to your moon and Lilith, and this is usually it is. I mean, not usually. It is ruled by Aquarius, which usually means that you have this like revolutionary spirit. You're going to change the way that feelings are seen. So it's cool that normally these things are at odds because they're across from each other. But it seems like you have really brought them together, and it's helped you balance. So it's you turn this negative into a positive.
Yeah. I feel like that's one of my superpowers is like, give me some lemons. I will figure out a way to make some like a beautiful lemon martini with it or something. And I do feel like a revolutionary in some ways because I'm always bothered by things that are off and wrong or lies or harmful or not freeing us, holding us back, limiting our potential. I believe so much in like working towards our capacities, our potential, trying to self actualize. Like, what is the point of being here if not to like become your best self? And
Hmm.
there's lots of what you can do that through learning, through loving, like, there's all these great ways we can step into our capacities, but I think, like, the game of life, the elephant in the room, what are we doing here? Okay, well, what we're doing here is trying to add good because we were here. Be someone that consciousness would want to exist or continue existing. Um, and so part of the way I do that is I look at what's wrong and how can I help clean it up? Like the garbage lady. Like, how can we fix what's broken?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. So I'd love to learn how you started onto the polymath journey. Did you always love everything in school, or how could you walk me through your schooling?
Yeah. Well, I went to Christian schools. My grandparents put me in private Christian schools from preschool to 12th grade. Um, and I learned a lot about the Christian religion. And I eventually sort of was disenfranchised by the organized religion, but have continued to love Jesus. So a lot of my moral learnings are rooted in what did Jesus teach, which was love, the golden rule, that we're all one. And so I should treat you like I'd want to be treated because at the end of the day, we're both part of the same one system, right? The same one being. So Christian schooling was a part of my learning for sure on the moral front, and I'll be forever grateful that like morals and ethics were part of my thinking from a young age because I think that may be the part of myself I'm most proud of more than formal education or IQ and more than the inner work I've done, the emotional stuff or my hobbies or I think the thing I'm most proud of myself is that I like me. I like my morals. I like my ethics. I stand for something. That's a nice feeling, right? Um I went off to and I will say, like, in junior high and high school, I was, like, a speech competition nerd, a student government nerd, a club nerd, a summer camp nerd. Like, I had already made the decision, like, by around age 12 that, like, I was here to live the best life I could, have a great life, and so how that showed up for me then was, I'm gonna be really good at school because that's gonna lead me into a good career, and then it's gonna open up other good things for my life. So I kinda hit it hard, at school. Um, and so that led me to, like, a really amazing opportunity. Went out just finishing high school, I interned for the governor of California, and I had a full ride for 4 years at the University of Southern California, where I double majored in communication and psychology. Loved psychology in particular. Um, and then I went back a few years after undergrad. I went back and got a master's in communication management, also from USC. And that was really about like how to manage people. It was like an MBA for people who don't want the math. It was like how to manage people and systems and organizations. And that was a cool program. And then after that, I moved to Washington, D.C., or the D.C. area anyway, and started my career in the federal government. And eventually, I decided to go back and get my doctoral degree. So I have a doctorate in human and organizational learning. It's a doctorate in education from George Washington University. And I finished that back in 2018. So I did a lot of formal schooling. And I love, like, one of my happiest places to be is like with a latte in a classroom, learning about something interesting. Like, that's warm and cozy and pleasant for me.
So do you think that intuition had a role in leading you to these different programs, or how did you decide what to take or where to apply?
Intuition and synchronicity, I think, especially, gosh, I think back on my undergrad, I went to Christian school, so I was sort of detached from, like, my high school didn't even have universities visit unless they were from a Christian college. So learning about, like, a secular university was really hard from my vantage point in Christian high school. But a friend I met through happenstance mentioned USC, what a good school it was. And so I just added it to my list of schools to apply to because of the happenstance of someone else who said it was a good school. And then it turns out when I was applying that because so my mother is a Cuban immigrant, and when I took the PSATs my junior year of high school, my dad's a regular white American dude, but my mom's a Hispanic immigrant. And so that day I was like, okay, I'll be Hispanic today. And I didn't realize that um, because I scored quite well on that test, then I became a National Hispanic Scholar. And because I was given that acknowledgement as a National Hispanic Scholar, I got a full ride to USC. And it was just like, yeah, it was like I followed my gut to be Hispanic on that day for the PSATs. And I applied to USC because someone mentioned it to me. And then when I was getting interviewed for USC, I mentioned the National Hispanic Scholar there. They asked about, and then I got a 4-year full ride, and then USC changed my life. Then that like led me to a professor my freshman year, first semester, who encouraged me to try new things. And then I got to living life in a polymathic way, intentionally trying to experiment, like be broad. And that gave me a taste for like how amazing life can be when you're open to it, when you're open to experiences, which is something that's like highly studied in the academic literature. It's a real thing, openness to experience. And I developed that early on, but there have been so many. Oh, and I let me tell you one other thing. I remember going to visit USC in high school. My dad and I went and looked at some campuses so I could pick what university I wanted to go to. And I remember stepping onto the USC campus. And mind you, I had existed in a Christian school bubble my whole life. There were less than 100 students in my high school. We didn't even have a cafeteria. It was like I came from very small Christian schools. So stepping on a huge university campus, I was so intimidated. And I remember the line going through my head, this is not for me. This is not for me. Um, but then when it came time to decide, USC gave me a full ride for 4 years. And it was one of the better schools I was accepted into. So it was an obvious choice. I was going to have to go to this school that felt like it wasn't me, but it was the logical thing to do. And then I went and I loved it. Like the fact that it was so intimidating and different made me grow so much into this new version of myself. I let the universe shape me and I liked how that worked out. So, yeah, there were lots of instances of like following leads and following signs and following my gut feeling that day and going with what the universe was pointing at, even though I was scared. And then it led to like these amazing experiences. I mean, USC is no offense to George Washington University, where I got my doctorate, but I spent 6 years of my life in undergrad and my master's program at the University of Southern California. And it was good for my soul. Like that place was really good for me. And I'm so grateful to be a Trojan, fight on.
How
Anyway, I don't know
wonderful.
your question, but yeah.
No, you did. I think that it's even better than I had asked, because you also mentioned like the logical, the reason. You had reason in here, but also intuition, and that's the aim of this show. So ILA Radio, it stands for intuition led academia. And so the radio part is looking like tuning into these different ways of knowing. So looking at elementary school or at any point, would you say that there should be a course on intuition development? Like, should we teach students how to trust their gut, how to follow these hunches? Is that something that you think would be valid?
I think so. I think we need to do more to understand intuition and gut feelings and the neurons in our own bellies. I think we need to do more to understand it so that we can intentionally harness it, And I think, gosh, kids are closer to that veil than adults, even. Like they may be even more capable of like harnessing and refining that capacity even more than we are as adults. So yeah, I think that would be a great addition for people who want to learn about it anyway. There may be people who just aren't going to be open and are going to reject it. And then in that case, what's the point of wasting their time? I mean, maybe they change their minds. You never know. I just think the more weird stuff, like if we're curious about something, let's learn about it. We all should be driving our own learning agendas. I wish someone would have taught me when I was a girl how to pay attention to the cues my body was telling me in my
Yeah.
gut. How useful would that have been? How many times have I not listened to my gut and then I get in trouble, you know?
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think that would be great. I think we need to rethink education and schooling altogether.
Yeah, that's my
That's
next
a whole
question.
other conversation.
Well, just really briefly, the little time that we have, what's one thing that you would want to change in
Oh, in
education?
education? Okay. The quality of our minds is the quality of our lives. Terence McKenna said that. And so the mind space is a lot of who we are. Like if you ask someone, do you feel more like your mind or your body? Most people would probably say, I feel like my mind. Like if you really want to see me, know my mind. This
Mhm.
meat suit is just like this temporary thing I didn't even really pick. But my mind, at least I have some agency and sovereignty over how it develops, at least if we're doing it right. So the thing about education is that it's mostly been a programming. It's like, okay, you're going to download this software. You're going to download this virus. You're going to think like your teachers tell you to think. And it's disempowering. There's a lack of freedom when we don't even get to fully shape our mind space ourselves. And that's what education is, especially K through 12. It's like, hey, come here and memorize these things we tell you, and we're going to set the agenda. You're going to have very little say. And my daughter, who just finished third grade, has expressed to me many times, and it weighs on me like, she learned it the first time it was explained, but she's got to sit there bored because other kids haven't learned it yet. And I would just love for us to figure out how education can be more empowering and self driven so that the mind space we're cultivating is something we chose, not that we inherited or were forced into. How can we create a freer mind space? So that's the one big thing. And there's many things I would change about education, but I'd love for it to be more self-directed and lifelong and life-wide, which is what polymathy is. Like, how can we make education nurturing so that we become and lean into our polymathic expression more? And that demands that our learning would be more self-directed, that and hodgepodge, and that we wouldn't waste time learning things of zero interest or practical utility, because the things we were forced to learn, like I don't remember any calculus because I don't care about calculus. I could temporarily memorize it for a test, and maybe 6 months later I'd still remember it. But when we're forced to learn things we don't really have a passion for or an interest in, it falls away and gets deleted. We don't even remember it.
Mhm.
So, and I also really think like God, the sponge time, like when kids are young and their brains are sponges, we really need to take advantage of that. We really need to take advantage of like the early brain plasticity. And I think we're not doing a good job of that in schools. But there's a bunch of things I would change about education. But anyway, those are just a few thoughts.
No, those are great. And this is a perfect place to stop. So just thank you so much. I wish that you and I could talk for hours and hours and hours. So I'll definitely have you back at a different point. We could go deep into education. But for now, where can people find you?
Check me out at Dr. Angela, Angela Myers, Meyers. So Dr. Angela Myers, the long spelling of Myers.com. I've got a YouTube channel under the same name. And I've got the Polymath Place Facebook community, which is a cool place to check out too if you're interested in meeting fellow polymathic minds. You can also check out prisontransparency.com if you're interested in some of my criminal justice educational work, and also modern polymath institute, which we didn't really talk about, but that's my nonprofit effort to organize and empower the brightest polymathic geniuses with good hearts to solve our planet's problems. So, anyway, that's all. Thank you for having me on, Laura. And for anyone who listened to this whole thing, thanks for listening. I hope you found it interesting.
I sure did. I love this conversation. So, yeah, just thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's it. Thanks so much for being here with us today. If this conversation stirred something in you, something forgotten, a part of yourself that you've been meaning to return to, or a question that you want to follow, don't ignore it. That's the beginning of something. You don't have to just pick one path. I think that's what's so cool about being a polymath is that you can pick all of the paths and you get to see the world in a new way because you're making all these connections that you wouldn't expect. And I really love how Angela brought up that we're not just integrators, we're synthesizers. We bring all of this knowledge, we meld it down and create something that has never before been expressed in a physical way ever before. And I feel like that's just like the essence of having superpowers, you know? So, if you're ready to start learning in a way that feels natural, joyful, and actually you, the first episode of my new ILA Institute course is out now. It's wherever you're listening or watching this, it's in the same channel, or you know what I mean. Just like go to the previous episode. It's the first of many, many to come, all designed to help you remember how to learn organically. I don't want this to be something that you're trying to do, like having to spend extra time to do so and so. I want you to become more aware of how you're already learning in your day to day worlds. Until next time, keep listening to your curiosities and let them lead you somewhere unexpected. Bye, everybody. I'll see you next week.